Before Jesus was arrested by the Romans, he prayed in the garden asking that the cup pass from him, as we see in Matthew 26:39. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me, nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. Likewise, he said the same thing in Mark 14:36, Luke 22:42, and alludes to it in John 18:11. Calvinists say as supporting evidence for penal substitutionary atonement, claim the symbolic cup Jesus said he would drink from is actually the wrath of God. And for this, they appeal to things like the book of Revelation, chapter 14, verse 10, and a couple of Old Testament passages referring to the wrath, to the cup of fury or wrath. However, when understanding the cup, we should look at the Matthew's gospel itself. We see the mention of cup, potηριον, mentioned 7 times in the gospel narration. We see in Matthew 10:42 where he talks about giving a cold cup of water to receive a reward. Matthew 22-23 where he talks about talking to his apostles, saying, "Are you able to drink from the cup that I drink of?" And the apostles reply, "Yes." Matthew 23:25, where he accuses the Pharisees of being essentially dirty cups on the inside and clean on the outside. Same with the verse 26. And then Matthew 26, he mentions the cup in the Last Supper instituting the Eucharist, where it says he took the cup, gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, "Drink of it." And then in Matthew 26:39, he speaks again of a cup, but this time a purely metaphorical cup, where it is said, "And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me." And then same thing he prayed later, and verses later. Since Jesus is speaking poetically, not about an actual cup, in Matthew 26:37-42, we can rule out the mention of literal cups like Matthew 10:42 and Matthew 26:27. As well as the cups mentioned in Matthew 23:25 to call the Pharisees dirty inwardly. So this just leaves us with one other one. That's Matthew 22 through. So that's Matthew chapter 20 verses 22-23. The stories that the stories tell the disciples that they who want to be exalted have to humble themselves, and masters must become servants. When he talks about drinking of the cup in the other Gospels, he adds that they must be baptized with the same baptism that he is baptized with. For instance, Mark 10:39, it says, "The cup that I will drink, you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized." Luke's Gospel mentions the baptism like this in Luke 12:50. "There is a baptism with which I must be baptized. How great is my anguish until it is accomplished." The last mention of anguish is similar to the anguish described in Matthew 26 while praying in the Garden of Gethsemane before his executioners arrived, as we read in Matthew 26:37-38. "He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. And he said to them, My soul is overwhelming with sorrow to the point of death." Furthermore, it is interesting that the sons of Zebedee that asked that said they would drink of the same cup as Christ, and in Matthew 26:37, it says 3 disciples were asked to wait as Jesus prayed. Peter, and those were Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, James and John. Perhaps he wanted them to have the first-hand glimpse of the cup. James would later die in Acts 12 as a martyr. John would be the only apostle not to die a martyr's death, though tradition says that he was tortured and possibly boiled alive in oil, but only to live and die as an old man. Peter, the chief apostle, would be told by Christ later in John chapter 21, after the resurrection, he would be also crucified. as tradition says he was crucified upside down in the city of Rome. Returning to the issue of Reformed theology, how can the cup of Matthew 26:39, Mark 14:36, and Luke 22:42 be the cup of wrath if the apostles drink from the same cup? The answer is simple. The cup is not the wrath of God. It is a cup that represents sorrow and suffering. They would be suffering at the hands of the very people they wanted to help. They would be suffering for Christ himself. However, what do Reformed apologists do to avoid this treasured piece of evidence being discounted as evidence that Jesus drank of the cup of wrath? Because, of course, you have to prove penal substitutionary atonement. It's a very important part of Calvinism. So what they do, say it's the same but different cup. For instance, here, legionnaires.org, the article is called "The Cup That Jesus Drinks." And they establish that the cup is is the wrath that Jesus is drinking. But then when it comes to the apostles, they say, quote, Jesus was not indicating that James and John would atone for the sins of others. The grammar of his original question makes it impossible for him to agree that the disciples could offer atonement. Instead, Jesus was pointing to the fact that in a sense they would share in the ordeal Christ was about to undergo in Jerusalem. And in other words, they would not escape suffering for the name of Jesus. So while admitting that it is the same cup in order to avoid the logical sacrilege implied by mere human apostles drinking of the same cup of wrath, they say it means something else, that they would suffer for Christ. Instead of just saying that the cup is talking about suffering for the kingdom, suffering for Christ, they have to redefine the cup for who drinks it. So anyway, my argument can be summed up by these statements. Premise 1, Jesus would drink a cup. Premise 2, the apostles were told they would drink the same cup. Premise 3, the apostles cannot suffer the wrath of God in the same sense Calvinists suppose Christ suffered the wrath of God. Conclusion, the cup was not the cup of wrath. Therefore, Matthew 26:42 cannot be used to support penal substitutionary atonement. That's how it works. You can't just redefine what the cup means based on who drinks it. Anyway, this is Brandon Selassie.